Neil Gaiman and Amanda Palmer have unexpectedly divorced after 11 years together. But the timing of their split is even more shocking, just as dark allegations began to surface. What happened behind the scenes? Were the serious allegations the final straw? You won't believe what went on behind closed doors in what seemed like the perfect marriage. Relationship overview. Neil Gaiman, a name that is all too familiar to those who love fantasy literature. He is the author of a series of classic works such as Sandman, American Gods, Coraline, and Good Omens. With his extraordinary imagination and his magical and profound storytelling style, Neil has affirmed his solid position in the world of literature for decades. Amanda Palmer, opposite to Neil in many ways, is a fiery, rebellious artist who does not hesitate to challenge all standards. She is the lead singer of the punk cabaret group The Dresden Dolls, famous for her bold, sometimes controversial, but always impressive performance style. Amanda is also one of the pioneers in using crowdfunding to finance her music, especially through Patreon. The two met in the late 2000s in a very artistic situation. According to many accounts, they met via email after Amanda read one of Neil's works and sent compliments. From their initial exchanges, the two quickly discovered a kindred spirit, a bond that transcended genre and style. Neil and Amanda got engaged in 2010. A year later, in January 2011, they held a quiet and private wedding ceremony. No fanfare, no pomp, but full of symbolism true to both of their styles. Their marriage does not fit any traditional mold. In many interviews and personal blogs, both have affirmed that their relationship is open, not constrained, not possessive. They respect each other's creative and personal freedom and are willing to live apart for months at a time if it serves their artistic work. In 2015, Amanda gave birth to her first son, Anthony Ash Palmer Gaiman. Neil's late fatherhood, combined with Amanda's itinerant lifestyle, made their family life quite different. They lived in many places. From New York to England to Boston, there was even a time when Amanda traveled the world alone with her young child, while Neil was busy writing elsewhere. On social media, Neil and Amanda were once admired as the ideal artistic couple, always supporting each other, fueling each other's creativity, and not afraid to share their personal lives. They used to live stream together, write poems to each other publicly, and appear together at literary and music events. However, behind that halo, something began to crack. Little details gradually appeared, from Neil's withdrawal from social media to Amanda's lonely blog posts. But it wasn't until the COVID-19 pandemic broke out that everything fell apart. What happened? A relationship that seemed unbreakable gradually fell apart. Next, we come to part 2, when the pandemic causes all the masks in their marriage to start falling off. The big issues. While Neil Gaiman and Amanda Palmer have always appeared as a unique, creative, and loving artistic couple, behind the scenes, their relationship has gradually cracked not because of any shocking scandal, but because of the quiet, long-lasting cracks that have accumulated over the years. They were once the model of a mature relationship where two talented artists can still pursue their passions, be true to themselves, and still stay connected. But a brilliant career also means a busy schedule, constant flights, and an increasing distance. When Neil is busy writing at a remote house in Scotland or Iceland, Amanda is carrying her young child to perform in Europe, America. A long-distance relationship that lasts forever, as if they always have to fall in love all over again after each reunion. We spent most of our marriage learning to love each other through email and FaceTime, and it was, at times, exhausting, Amanda writes. And then there's the element that makes their love story unique, the open relationship. They've been open about believing in non-possessive love, that it's okay for both of them to have other emotional or physical relationships. To outsiders, it's a modern, bold, and admirable stance. But inside, openness is sometimes just a cover for unnamed wounds, because even if the mind accepts it, the heart can still hurt. jealousy, the feeling of being replaced, or simply loneliness when the person you love is with someone else. All of these things have caused the distance between them to grow even wider. And then the COVID-19 pandemic happened as the final test that pushed everything to the limit. In May 2020, as the world shut down and the Gaiman family were living in New Zealand, a safe and virtually virus-free place, Neil suddenly announced that he was flying solo to Scotland. He said he needed to self-isolate and write. But the move was not only a violation of lockdown regulations, but also a hidden message. Neil had chosen to leave his wife and children at a time when the rest of the world was trying to be closer together. The online community was in an uproar. Many condemned Gaiman for his selfish actions, but perhaps what shocked the public more was Amanda's next post. On Patreon, the platform where she often confided in her fans, Amanda posted a long letter confirming that they had separated. In each word, there was exhaustion, bitterness, and a little despair. She said it was personal, but she couldn't continue to pretend everything was fine just to please others. We still love each other, but some things in love cannot be healed, that cannot be saved. The announcement of the separation was like a time bomb. The public was shocked, and the media focused on the couple who had been considered the iconic artists of freedom in love. And then, amid the articles, the comments full of regret and judgment, a question quietly rang out and never ceased to haunt. Are art, freedom, and forgiveness no matter how beautiful enough to sustain a marriage? Or is it all just an ideal dream, impossible to exist in real life? While people are still talking about Neil Gaiman and Amanda Palmer's sudden separation, another storm much more serious has begun to form in the shadows. Is the great writer of the fantasy world hiding a dark side that has never been revealed? Sexual misconduct allegations. If the separation had upset fans, by 2024, Neil Gaiman's name was once again thrust into the eye of a storm, this time, not just a private matter, but a serious scandal that could threaten the entire career he had built over more than 3 decades. In July 2024, the investigative podcast, Master, the allegations against Neil Gaiman, produced by Tortoise Medi, officially aired. In it, 2 unnamed women publicly accused Gaiman of sexual misconduct, one incident allegedly occurring in 2002 and another in 2022. The news spread quickly. Although the podcast did not disclose identities, the detailed content and careful storytelling caused a stir in public opinion. And what made things even more tense? Just a month later, in August 2024, 4 more women came forward with similar allegations, bringing the total number of accusers to 6. The incident culminated in January 2025, when New York Magazine, one of the most prestigious newspapers in the US, published an investigative report of more than 5,000 words. 8 other women have come forward with more chilling details. They describe Neil Gaiman as controlling, demanding in situations where there was no clear agreement, even asking them to call him master, which suggests elements of insecurity and a lack of clarity about power boundaries. Some of the accusers were former students, former assistants, or participants in writing workshops organized by Gaiman. The question is, did Gaiman, who has always been praised as a kind, feminist figure, use his position to manipulate others in the shadows? Neil Gaiman's response was swift. In an official statement, he denied all the accusations, asserting that every relationship he had ever had was consensual, and said he would cooperate fully with any legal investigation. Gaiman also expressed his heartbreak over the accusations, saying they were hurting not only him, but also his family and colleagues. However, division within the fan community was inevitable. Some still firmly believe in the innocence of the man who inspired millions of readers with his humane fantasy worlds. Others, especially those who have been victims of unhealthy relationships, say, "Where there's smoke, there's fire." Once a giant in the literary world, Neil Gaiman is now facing one of the toughest challenges of his life, not from his imagination, but from reality. How will Amanda Palmer, Gaiman's ex-wife, react to these shocking allegations? Will she stay silent, stand by him, or choose to speak the truth? Perhaps this is also the reason for their divorce. Amanda Palmer's response. When the wave of accusations against Neil Gaiman broke out in early 2025, public attention quickly spread beyond him to Amanda Palmer, his ex-wife, longtime creative partner, and powerful feminist icon in the independent art world. Given Palmer's reputation as an artist who is not afraid to speak out on sensitive and social issues, many expected her to take a clear stance, if not condemn, then at least respond in kind. And then, in late January, Palmer officially released a public statement on her Patreon account where she regularly shares her thoughts and personal updates with her fans. In the nearly 800-word statement, Palmer not only expressed shock at the information that was circulating, but also emphasized that she felt deeply hurt, confused, and emotionally torn apart by the whirlwind of conflicting information. What shocked her was not only the seriousness of the allegations, but also the backlash against what she thought she knew about a man with whom she shared not only her life, but also her artistic dreams and their child, Ash. Palmer insists that her top priority at this time is to protect Ash from the media maelstrom and relentless public scrutiny. She urges people to respect her and her family's privacy, stressing that no matter what's going on, Ash is still a child, and he deserves a peaceful childhood. But while Palmer's public rhetoric has been measured and polite, sources behind the scenes at New York Magazine reveal a different emotional depth, complicated, bitter, and filled with feelings of betrayal. According to close friends, Palmer was not completely taken aback by the allegations, but rather had a hunch, a suspicion that persisted for years, which she tried to quell out of a belief in the sincerity of the relationship. These sources say that Neil Gaiman had been in a close relationship with a woman named Rachel, a figure known in the art community as having had a public relationship with both Gaiman and Palmer while they were still a couple. Palmer, they say, initially thought it was part of their open and honest agreement, a relationship that both proudly called open, but with boundaries. However, after expressing discomfort with the level of intimacy between Neil and Rachel, Palmer is said to have believed the relationship was over. Ironically, it was only after the marriage ended that Palmer learned that Gaiman had continued to maintain secret contact with Rachel throughout their separation and even before. According to a close friend, Palmer felt subtly deceived, not by specific actions, but by deliberate silences, vague answers, and a breach of trust. According to multiple sources, she shared in a private conversation with a friend named Caroline, "I felt like I was living next to a parallel world, where everything I thought I knew about Neil was just a mask. You have no idea what dark, twisted things were going on in that man's head." It was not just a story of personal betrayal, but Palmer also began to reflect on the entire structure of the marriage she had so proudly built with Gaiman. In a closed-door meeting with the group of female musicians she is a part of, Palmer shared that over the years, she has made many sacrifices, from being pregnant and raising her child virtually alone, to putting off major tours to stay home and maintain a family life, while Gaiman was often absent for long-term projects abroad. She admitted, "Everyone thinks of me as this strong, independent woman. But sometimes, what I do is not because I want to, but because I don't want things to fall apart." Some describe Amanda Palmer's pain as not a clear scandal, but a long-term mental wear and tear, as respect and transparency are gradually replaced by disconnection, emotional distance, and trust is gradually eroded. Palmer's selective silence afterward, her limited media appearances, her refusal to defend or deny the allegations against Gaiman, was taken online as a non-verbal message that sometimes saying nothing is the clearest way to say it. So how much did Palmer know about the real Neil Gaiman? And was her silence a form of self-protection or the first step toward exposing the truth? The link between divorce and allegations. After years of ups and downs together, from artistic collaborations to co-parenting, their son Neil Gaiman and Amanda Palmer finally announced their divorce in November 2022. In a statement posted on social media platforms, the couple confirmed that it was a heartbreaking but necessary decision, and that they remained committed to raising their son Ash with love, respect, and tolerance. However, the media quickly realized that the statement was too perfect and a bit staged. Many questioned, was this a truly civilized separation or just a cover for a much more complicated breakup? The consequences were not limited to the emotional side. Neil Gaiman's career began to suffer severely, especially when the allegations surfaced just 2 years later. Since mid-2024, after the podcast Master, the allegations against Neil Gaiman aired, a series of partners began to quietly cut ties with him. Dark Horse Comics, the publisher behind many famous comic works, announced that it would stop cooperating. Disney, which was in the process of developing an adaptation of the Graveyard Book, also put the project on hold indefinitely. New production plans, script writing offers, even book signings all suddenly froze. For a writer once considered an icon of the modern fantasy generation, this is not just a career that has stalled, but an entire empire that is crumbling piece by piece. One of the points that many people cannot help but ask is the divorce in 2022 independent of the allegations that appeared in 2024? Or were the first signs of scandal the reason Palmer decided to withdraw? According to New York Magazine, some of Amanda Palmer's close friends revealed that she had discovered early on that Neil Gaiman was having an affair with a woman named Rachel, and that the relationship continued even after Gaiman told Palmer it was over. That may be just one piece of the larger puzzle. Around the same time, Amanda Palmer reportedly discovered several strange and opaque behaviors from Gaiman, including ambiguous messages, intimate photos, and his treatment of several young women in the art scene. When the allegations were officially announced in 2024, many began to believe that Palmer had known, or at least had a hunch, about some of this for years. And the decision to separate in 2020 and then divorce in 2022 was not only a result of distance due to the pandemic, but also a preparation to ride out the storm that was coming. The question remains, did Palmer keep quiet to protect her son? Or did she try to warn the public without anyone noticing? Whatever the answer, it is clear this breakup is no longer a civilized ending, but the first chapter of a public tragedy. If you were Palmer, would you choose to stay silent to protect your child or speak up from the beginning to expose the truth? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.